3, 4.
Hi everyone, this is Jewish Talk coming to you live from Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC, also streaming on the iHeart and the iTunes app. We can be seen in the studios. Hello, I'm waving on my Facebook live page and the Facebook of this great station, WHPC. This program is later archived on Spreaker.com, so hi there. My name is Rabbi Pearl. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This all depends on when you're listening or watching. Hello to Joel Harris and to Jean and to all our wonderful listeners. My dear friends, it is with great sadness that we report the sudden passing of Rabbi Chaim Aaron Waxlach, Zecher Tzadik Livracha, spiritual leader of Young Israel of Long Beach. He also served as the clinical director of the Hebrew Academy for Special Children, HASC. Rabbi Waxlach's dedication to his entire community was extraordinary. Tei Nishmas Tzur B'Tzar Chaim, may his soul be bound up in the bond of eternal life. And we extend our heartfelt condolences to his dedicated wife, Rebbetzin Rivka, and his children and grandchildren. Our condolences go out also to our friend Marsha Kirshner on the loss of her sister Phyllis Silverstein, and to Patty Fuchs, our longtime listener of our weekly radio show Jewish Talk. May Hashem comfort you amongst the other mourners of Zion and Jerusalem. My friends, hello to Harvey Kipnis. Hello to Dr. Kilshevsky. I'd like to begin with a pet peeve. And the pet peeve I shared with my congregation yesterday morning at Chabad of Mineola. And that is, why is it we all scramble to learn and to remember the good deeds and the wonderful memories and the good actions of people only when they pass away? Why can't we, every day of our life, look around and see the wonderful people in our lives and to recognize the good and talk about the good and appreciate the good of the wonderful people around us? Therefore, yesterday, even before I began my regular speech, I looked around and I first said, thank you, Hashem, for giving us this great congregation. Thank you, Hashem, for giving us all the blessings to each and every one of us. Thank you, Hashem, for allowing special people who join us each and every week at our shul. And then we said, let's look at each other and not wait, but to all the time to appreciate the goodness and the kindness that each of us bring to the plate, so to speak, bring to life, and never to take each other for granted, and to appreciate that every one of us has a mission and everyone is contributing to the well-being not only of our shul but of society in general. So here we are, dear friends. I want to tell you that Judaism does not believe in the freedom of speech. I know right away I'm off on the wrong start, but let me explain to you. There are certain ways of speaking about other people that are actually forbidden and discouraged. The heightened sensitivity to language is based on a profound respect for its power, because ultimately words matter. What you say, how you say it, to whom you say it, and what you say, and everything else around it really, really counts. In Jewish mysticism, Kabbalah teaches us that speech has an effect beyond the simple event in which one person says something to another. The very fact that the words were pronounced has a significant aspect that makes it an energetic imprint. It makes a difference. A negative example of this phenomenon is the case of Lashon Hara, which translates literally as evil talk, but includes any kind of detrimental speech, including gossip, even if it is true and well-intentioned. In Judaism, it forbids us to speak or even listen to Lashon Hara, to this evil talk. Moreover, our sages tell us that in addition to negatively affecting the speaker, the one who says the bad talk, and the listener, gossip has a negative impact on the person about whom it is spoken beyond the obvious defamation of the character, even if they do not hear about it. Can you imagine the world of social media today? Gewalt. Remember, when we say something negative, it's bad to the person who says it, it's bad to the person listening, and it's even bad to the person who's not even there, whom we're talking about. So we can understand why the speaker and the listener of this evil talk is negative, is looked down upon, is absolutely disgusting. They have, of course, committed a serious transgression. But why should the person spoken about be negatively affected? Again, Kabbalah, Jewish mysticism explains that by speaking about a person's negative qualities, one invokes their expression. Though the person may not even be aware that they're being spoken about, the fact that their character flaws are being discussed brings their content to a certain level, concretizes it. Every Shabbos morning, we study at our shul. Everyone is welcome at 9 a.m. We start at 9 a.m. And we begin our weekly study by looking into the book called Hayom Yom. This is like a book of daily meditations, where the Rebbe, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, illustrates the disgusting and deleterious effect of such negative speech with a story about the Baal Shem Tov, the founder of Hasidism. Let me share it with you. The story goes as follows. Once two men had a quarrel while in the Baal Shem Tov's synagogue, and one man shouted that he would tear the other fellow to pieces like a fish. In response, the Baal Shem Tov told his pupils to hold hands, stand near him with their eyes closed. Then he placed his holy hands on the shoulders of the two disciples next to him. Suddenly, the disciples began to shout in great terror. They had seen that fellow actually dismembering his disputant. That means he just said to them, I'll rip you up, like a fish. Guess what? They were able to see that on a spiritual level, and a more higher, deeper level, this was actually happening. This incident demonstrates that every potential has an effect, either in a physical form or on a spiritual plane, that can be perceived only with higher and more refined senses. So based on such a subtle understanding of the power of speech to negatively impact others, we can only imagine the positive effects of our words can have if spoken with consciousness and compassion. So again, let's not wait for sad times. Let us now look around the room, look around the loved ones, look around all those who are sleeping. They're not everybody. I can't expect everybody to be listening to my program. Only 99%. But let's be serious and appreciate the people around us, and think about the good things, and remind them, and say, I appreciate what you're doing. Thank you for that kindness the other day. So in this spirit, our sages tell us to judge everyone for good, including emphatically trying to understand the source of other people's shortcomings. And remember, walk a mile in their shoes. Be careful not to jump to conclusions. We discussed this again, how careful we must be, because we all have biases, whether we like it or not. If you're born at this place or that place, to these parents, to that education, guess what? Nobody is free from biases. And therefore, it's very, very important to stop and to pause and to recognize that, and therefore make a good effort to find the good in others and not to be influenced by one's way of look or way of life. So beyond this, we can actively find ways to praise each person. The spiritual effect of such lashon tov, which means positive speech, is to enable a person's good qualities, which may have been hidden within them, to come to the surface. So if lashon hara, which is evil talk, is ultimately meant to tear someone down, lashon tov, good speech, is meant to build them up. And before I share with you many examples of the Rebbe, how he would practice lashon tov, positive, and the impact it would have, I want to say, again, a special welcome to all of our listeners. And as many of my listeners say, Rabbi, you have the greatest face for radio. But there are those who can handle it. And therefore I want to say hello to Lori Polanski, Stephen White, thank you so much. To Zalman Stewart Wug, thank you. To Doug, and to everybody listening and watching us today. So there are many examples from the Rebbe of what it means to say something nice about someone. And as I said before, and not when they're dead, when they're alive, and to look around and say thank you. So Kim, thank you very much. Kim is our wonderful engineer, and I want to appreciate coming in early and making sure our program goes well. Thank you, and to everything you do.
You're very welcome. Thank you for thanking me.
Okay. I want to practice what I preach over here. It's not just a radio show here. This is for real. So beyond just a pleasant exchange of niceties, the Rebbe sought such positive words as strengthening or activating the hidden resource of each person with whom he spoke and interacted. His positive words would constantly encourage people and were meant to have a spiritually empowering effect on them. So here are some examples, in honor of our subject today, of how the Rebbe expressed this meta-linguistic aspect of his positivity bias through the constant speaking of Lashon Tov, of positive talk. One particular way the Rebbe would positively impact others in conversation or correspondence was to always look for an opportunity to compliment them. Receiving a compliment from anyone is uplifting, but all the more so from a world spiritual leader. So here's a story. After their engagement, this gentleman called Jake Hardoff and his fiancée were invited to a private meeting with the Rebbe. The Rebbe shared that, like Jack, he too had studied electrical engineering, completing his degree in the Sorbonne in Paris, and that upon arriving from Europe during the war, this was in 1941, the Rebbe had worked in the Brooklyn Navy Yard as an engineer. The Rebbe then proceeded to ask Jack to fill him in on all the new developments in electrical engineering. What was supposed to be a 50-minute meeting lasted for 2 hours. When the meeting was finished, the Rebbe blessed the young couple with many years of marital bliss. Then he said something unexpected. You know, and he used his Jewish name, Yaakov ben Eliezer, normally when people come to see me, I'm the rabbi and they are the pupils. But today, you were the teacher and I was the pupil. In Jack's own words, I'll never forget this compliment the Rebbe gave me. It is something I will remember all my life. Let's move on now to Raphael Noril. He was born in Iran. He was trained as a classical artist. Eventually, he moved with his family to London, where he lived next door to a Lubavitcher family who invited the new neighbors over for a meal. Upon entering their house, Raphael was immediately drawn to a picture of the Rebbe that was hanging on the wall. Inexplicably moved, he decided there and then he wanted to paint a portrait of the Rebbe. Whenever Raphael painted someone's portrait, he always got to know them in some way before beginning his work. This particular portrait, however, posed a unique problem for Raphael. I felt distant on a number of levels. In addition to being thousands of miles away from the Rebbe, right? He was in London, the Rebbe was in New York. As a secular person, I don't feel like I could relate to him on a personal level. So in my quest to get closer to him, this gentleman, Raphael, began to pray, put on tefillin, and even kept Shabbos and the holidays. So upon completion of the portrait, Raphael traveled to New York with his neighbor to show the Rebbe his handiwork. After commenting on the position of his hands in the painting, Raphael asked the Rebbe what he thought about the face. And the Rebbe said, very good, very good, very good, 3 times. Then he added with a smile, better than the original. That's how the Rebbe complimented him. My friends, it's all about positive. You've got to be positive. And good morning to you, Patty Fuchs, and our best wishes to your mother for a long life, and to you, and to the entire Kirshner family. Another way in which the Rebbe would positively impact people through speech was to empower them in the virtues that they already expressed, and even pointing them out in some unrevealed potential. Good morning to Michael Greenberg. Thank you so much for joining us today. Let me tell you something. Here it goes. And this is typical of the Rebbe, and typical of what we should, follow. Follow as an example, and emulate this way. I'm speaking about Susan Schuster. Grew up in a secular New York. She went to school, became a nurse, and married a successful plastic surgeon. Shortly thereafter, they moved to Florida and began to have children. One of her sons befriended a Lubavitcher family at his Hebrew school, which spurred her own family to be able to become more religious together. Eventually, they made a trip to Brooklyn to meet the Rebbe, which was, according to Susan, beyond words. After their first meeting with the Rebbe, they returned many times and continued to become more observant as the time went on. So in a subsequent encounter, the Rebbe said to Susan, "Listen carefully, my friends. Your husband is a plastic surgeon. He makes people beautiful on the outside. It should be your mission to make people beautiful on the inside." Now that story alone really took me on many, many levels. Many, many levels. Just the idea that there is an outside, but there's also an inside. And if we really care for people, it's not just about how they look and what car they drive or how their house looks on the outside. It's our mission to recognize and to make people beautiful, or to be assured that people are beautiful on the inside. Susan took these words to heart and began inviting people to their home for Shabbat meals in an effort to help them find spiritual meaning in the beauty of Judaism. As a result of the Rebbe's continuous encouragement and empowerment, the Schusters even started and ran a successful minyan for many years in their neighborhood, providing others with opportunities to come together and connect to a higher purpose. All around positive talk, seeing the good, bringing out the best in others. I want to say hello to Stephen Epstein. Good morning to you. Thank you so much. Ashrei Yosher V'Secha. I'd like to bring you now to 1999. In Lido Beach, Long Island, lives the famous Senator Alphonse D'Amato. But in 1999, after the Crown Heights riots, the senator came to visit the Rebbe with the then U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of New York to assure the Rebbe that they were very aware of the issues going on at that time in the neighborhood, and they were taking protection for the Jewish community very seriously. The Rebbe offered many words of wisdom and blessing, which he consistently phrased as being intended for all the people of New York and United States. And then he added a personal comment directed at Senator Al D'Amato. And the Rebbe said the following. You know that the word Amato, right, the last name of the Senator, D'Amato, Amato, A-M-A-T-O, has a connection with the word love in Italian. He then continued, if you proceed in your work with a real sense of inner love, then the entire population of New York will respond to you and your colleagues with true love as well. In the word of the sages, words that come from the heart enter the heart. And I think that's an amazing insight, and something that all leaders should bear in mind. The wife of a distinguished, I'm continuing these little stories, my friends, just to give us an idea of the power of positive speech, and saying thank you to the people that we come in contact with on a daily basis, whether it's the mailman, whether it's the gas station, especially the people that we see in our lives, whether it's at work or in our homes, in the synagogue, or the communities that we all travel in. The wife of the distinguished New York rabbi came to the Rebbe one Sunday morning to receive $1 for charity. The Rebbe's custom was he would stand at the door on a Sunday and for 4, 5, 6 hours, literally greet thousands of people, give them $1 for charity. He would make them, it was the idea that he gave us $1, which he made us a representative, a messenger to help someone else. The idea is, as he said many times, that when two people get together, the result should be not just something personal for each other or at each other, but it should be helpful to someone else outside of our sphere to help a third person. So this was the Rebbe's custom, and giving us $1 for charity. So this lady, the wife of a distinguished rabbi, came, and the Rebbe greeted her warmly and said the following. It's nice to see you. You have not been here for a while, but that's the way it is with really precious things. You see them only from time to time. That, to me, my friends, spurred me on to begin my Shabbos morning this week. Not to wait, but to say good things and to recognize how beautiful we all are. And by divine providence, we know each other, we help each other, we care for each other, and show love for each other. Here, in yet another example of the Rebbe's uplifting others by acknowledging and speaking positive and acknowledging this special soul and spark that we all have. He once was speaking to a convert, someone who had joined the Jewish community, Jewish people, and he once said to this convert during the Sunday morning dollars, "God loves you," that's this convert, "more than he does me." Perhaps the Rebbe was alluding to the fact that the Torah commands us to love our fellow only once, but instructs us to be loving of a convert no less than 32 times. Hope you're writing that down, my friends. Ever sensitive to the feelings of others, in the story of the Rebbe makes a point of elevating the spirit of an individual who might have seen and felt himself to be an outsider on some level, by highlighting the reality that in God's eyes, the convert was perhaps even more of an insider than others as the result of his sacrifices that he'd made for his faith. The Rebbe was letting him know that he was truly deserving of the highest honor and recognition. We can see from all of these stories that I shared with you, which is really just a drop in the ocean, as the Rebbe's commitment to Lashon Tov, to positive talk. In every interaction, he constantly sought out a way to compliment, inspire, acknowledge each person's special talent, strength, and potential. This was a direct expression of the Rebbe's belief that speaking positively to and about others manifests and strengthens their inherent points of goodness. Judaism does not believe in freedom of speech, as I said earlier on, because there are certain ways of speaking about other people that are absolutely forbidden or discouraged. I know that the owners of Facebook and Twitter and all the other online social media may be upset with this, but the truth is, just speaking bad and negativity is not the way to go. This heightened sensitivity to language is based on the profound respect for its power. For ultimately, my friends, words do matter. Well, looking forward, in exactly about 2 weeks, we're going to be celebrating Purim. 2 generations ago, a nation attempted to wipe off the Jews off the face of the earth. Talk about the Nazi Germany. Purim coming up on March the 9th in the evening all the way through the 10th of March. Purim is the holiday that takes us back to the first time in history where such a genocide against the Jewish people had been attempted, which is some 2,300 years ago. The holiday of Purim marks the salvation from the plot of Haman, who was a high officer of the Persian Empire, no less, an advisor to the king Ahasuerus. So how do we celebrate Purim? How is it celebrated? First of all, we head to the synagogue on the evening of the 9th to hear the whole Megillah. The Megillah, also known as the Book of Esther, is the scroll that tells the Purim story. We listen to it in a public reading twice, once on Purim night at our synagogue at 7:30, and once again in the morning on Purim Day at 7:30 a.m. So the evening is at 7:30 p.m., in the morning is 7:30 a.m. Again, this year, Purim is on Monday night, March the 9th, and Tuesday, March the 10th. And of course, when we hear the Megillah, we pay particular attention because it's crucial to hear every word. The second way we celebrate, the second mitzvah of the day, is Matonis Levyonim, giving to the needy. On one of the Purim's primary themes is unity. Haman tried to kill us all. We were all in danger together, so we celebrate together. Therefore, on Purim Day, we place special emphasis on caring for the less fortunate. Give money or food to at least 2 needy people during the daylight hours of Purim, which is March 10th. In case you can't find any needy people, your synagogue will be likely to be collecting money for this purpose. At least, if you're at home and you can't get to the synagogue, place 2 coins in a charity box earmarked for the poor. As with other mitzvahs of Purim, even small children should fulfill this mitzvah. Now let's move on to number 3. On Purim, we send food gifts to friends. In Hebrew, it's called Mishloach Manos. On Purim, we emphasize the importance of friendship and community by sending gifts of food to friends. On Purim Day, March 10th, we send a package containing at least 2 different ready-to-eat food items and or beverages, like a pastry, a fruit, a beverage, to at least 1 acquaintance during the daylight hours of Purim. This is the special mitzvah Mishalach Manas. And finally, we have the feast. During the course of the Purim day, March 10th, we gather our friends and maybe invite a guest or two. Or in our synagogues, many synagogues have communal gatherings, and we celebrate a great festival Purim meal. Traditionally, this meal begins before sundown and lasts well into the evening. The table should be festively bedecked with a nice tablecloth and candles. We wash for bread or challah. We enjoy a meal featuring all kinds of goodies, plenty of songs, words of Torah, joyous spirit. We say l'chaim, we laugh, and we have fun together. And therefore, I want to share with you that we at the Chabad Mineola, Rabbi Anshel Pearl and Bluma, invite you all. We are inviting you to our special themed Purim festival meal, which will take place on Tuesday, March the 10th. The theme is called Roaring 20s Purim. There'll be a feast of glitz and glamour. There'll be a late Megillah reading at 4:15, but the doors open for the festival meal at 5:15 p.m. And the theme is the Roaring 20s. So you can put on your furs, pearls, top hats, and tails. You can become a flapper, a silent film star, or a gangster. We will also be featuring Robin Channing, a magician and mentalist, an exquisite buffet dinner, a costume catwalk, an open bar, Gewalt geschrigen. I'm so excited I may want to come myself. So dear friends, join us for Purim. Join us, and during this meal we actually we hear the Megillah, we also fulfill the mitzvahs if you haven't had a chance during the daytime, but most importantly, let us celebrate Purim together. This is on Monday evening, March the 9th, here in the Megillah, and once again in the morning, and then all the wonderful mitzvahs. So as I began, I'd like to conclude. And of course the programs go on. This great station has wonderful programs all day long. But the key is, let's make our speech great again. Let's make sure that we speak good. Look at the people around our lives. Let them know that we appreciate what they're doing, their efforts they're making, their resources they're extending, the friendship, the camaraderie, and never take each other for granted. And let's not wait for any tough times to talk about the goodness of the people around us. Let them know that we love them. Let them know that we appreciate them for the smallest of things. Doesn't matter what it is, it's importance of making a difference in people's lives. So this is your host, Rabbi Pearl, wishing you a good week, a safe week, and as we say in French, sei gesund.